ascend the way that Apollo Crews has?
No doubt about it. With anyone that teaches or trains someone and they see them on television, it's a rush, and also too a blessing, because I'm a believer, and all my students that attach to me, they get blessed too. So it's a blessing in my opinion. But of course, a lot of hard work went into that on his part. When he first came to me, I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And of course, he knew that, everybody does research. If you're smart and you really want to make it in this business, you do have to do research on trying to find the right school to go to, and if it's the right place for you to get the things you need, the tools you need to go further in the sport that we do, which is professional wrestling. And, he did that and came and saw me, and he was determined from day one. I already knew he was going to be good because it didn't take me long to learn anything. I mean, I'd show him one time, and he'd have it, and then I like training people like that, big people, because I was a big guy, and, I could relate to as far as their size a little more. I mean, I train anybody, but I like training bigger people and athletic people, and he's one good athlete, no doubt about it, as you can see him on television doing this thing. And but he's a good, well-mannered kid. I mean, he's respectful. He just never got out of the ring. I mean, he started. I mean, I'd get two guys in there, him and another person, and give you a break, and he'd never want to get out. He'd wait for it, go with the next person, and the next person, and the next person, because he was wanting to learn fast, and that's what it takes in the business. If you want to be good, you got to learn, and you got to be good. And he was one of them, no doubt about it. And so, I don't know if you ever seen that movie Rocky, where one of those movies in Rocky Balboa, where he was training this guy, this homeless kid, this Tommy Gunn, and started teaching him, and then he had his first bout, and he was watching him downstairs punching on the bag. And I watched that, it's kind of like that same feeling, you'd be like, man, this is awesome, This kid you train is on TV and you're watching him, and that's great. And that's the thing, when I started in this sport about teaching, I mean, every person that came through the door actually wanted to teach them to make it. And that's my whole goal. You got some schools that just take people's money. They're not their heart's not in it. My heart's into teaching professional wrestling because that's what I do. And so, any person that calls me or joins my facility, well, they're going to get the best training they can possibly get, because that's how I roll, you see. So anyway, yeah, he was a good student, and I'm glad to see him, doing this thing along as, same as Heath Slater as well. He's doing his thing as well.
And what a great reference there with Rocky V and Tommy Gunn, and that's definitely that's a great story of a teacher versus student, and watching the development from one side and the frustration in the student as he thinks he ends up being better than the teacher. But when you look at guys like Heath Slater and you look at how he's really progressed over the last 6 years, and we've seen him grow from kind of a faceless guy in a group to being on both shows of a brand split WWE, but also looking at other students that you had like Moose and also A.R. Fox. But Apollo Crews, really specifically, some of the athletic moves that this guy does for his size are just mind-boggling. Is that something he came to you with out of the gate, was those unique things that a guy his size could do?
Well, no, here's what happened. Like I said, I was a big man in the wrestling business. I was over 370 pounds, okay? So on top of all that 370 pounds, I was a good athlete, I played football, I did track, I wrestled in high school. So I was a good athlete on top of that, the wrestling part. So he was kind of like the same. I mean, he was a big guy that was a good athlete, see. And like I stated earlier, I love training big guys because I used to be a big guy, and I can show them stuff that's going to make them stand out as a big person. Normally you see a big guy, he's in there pounding, kicking, and stomping, and that's about all he can do, is squeezing you, squashing you. But to be different and unique, I tell guys, man, this is what happened for me. You're a big dude. If you do it this way, it can happen for you. So I was pretty much telling him that, I'm going to train you the way I do my thing, and you put your own little twist to it later. And so, the most important things I was teaching him that was impressive to people is drop kicks. Drop kicks is one of my main things. You drop kick a guy in the skull, not in the body, because that's not doing anything. And, I've been wrestling for almost 30 years now, probably a year away from the 30-year mark. And, I'm old school all the way. I don't care what they do on television. I'm just old school to the dirt. And that's the way I teach, because old school is where it's at. You cannot bury old school and think wrestling is going to survive. You got to keep training people the old school style of wrestling. Now, with Moose and Nation and all my students that are out there, there's thousands of them. When I train thousands, and a lot of them are wrestling still, and a lot of them are doing pretty good. And, when I see my students prospering, like Apollo and Slater and Moose and Jonathan Gresham, and I can go on and on with all these different guys that I've trained, and it's all because that they've been taught right. And that's the most important thing about professional wrestling, or about any other job, man. You have to be taught right. And if you're not trained correctly, you're just going to be, like anybody else, just floating. Because, like I said, professional wrestling is in my heart, is in my soul. That's what I do. And when a young person comes along and says, I'm going to pay you this money to teach me how to wrestle. My goal is, and people say, my dream is to be a professional wrestler. My dream is to be a WWE superstar, whatever the case may be. And I pretty much tell them this: if you work hard and pay attention and learn what I'm trying to teach you, you have a possibility. But if you drag your feet and be lazy, you're not going anywhere. It's as simple as that.
That's an absolutely great philosophy, and those guys